Hi, everybody. This is MattHawes of the Happy Show in Comics Limited, Evansville, Indiana. Now, see right here what I got is a black and white photostat of Amazing Spider-Man #2. What all this is about is I actually, when I opened my shop in 1996, my brick and mortar shop here in Evansville, Indiana of Comics Limited, I had some high dollar books, and some of these I think I actually had right before I opened the shop. Some of it is actually from my then personal collection because while I'm always a fan, remained a fan. Once I started the shop in 1996, I decided I could not be a collector because I keep everything really cool. So a lot of people can't believe to this day that I don't have an actual personal collection with all these super high price goodies. But at the time, though, I was still, when I opened the shop, I was still making use of my collection, so to speak. You know, it was a lot of my stock was actually started from my personal collection. I'd already started to gain other stuff, but a lot of it came from that. And to that degree, I had some high dollar stuff that I had a lot of good high dollar stuff, really. I mean, they're not all in here because I'd sold at different shows and conventions before this point. But and then I also had some that I guess just didn't feel was I was worried about putting in this book. But this book was made with black and white photostats, and why that is because in 1996 I did not own a personal computer. Now, excuse me while I focus on this image for a while, but because I want to discuss before I go forward. And again, I'm being lazy and not wanting to edit. That's why I'm not going to do a cut back to myself. But and I'll spare you that, having to look at me. So anyway, back in 1996, I know it sounds funny to somebody of a certain age today, but honestly, personal computers were not totally commonplace in the household. They were beginning to be. But in 1996, most people, I don't think, still had a PC in their household. By the end of the 90s, that would kind of turn over, and more people would have PCs, I think, than not on average, at least in certain areas of the country, like unless you're in a really rural area or something, because people were starting to get on the internet. It was starting to become a thing, the internet. And so basically what I'm saying is because I didn't have my own, I had a personal computer in the 1980s, late 80s, but it was more for gaming, and there were simple games at that time. I had a Commodore 128, I think it was, and then I had some kind of IBM compatible type computer, and I was not used to booting up. You had to have your boot drives and all this, and so anyway, I didn't keep it very long. But by the time I opened my shop, I realized after a couple of years I needed to get a computer in there. So about 98, I actually bought a computer for the use as the shop and the course for myself. Since most of my interests lie with comic books and stuff like that, it was actually business related, even if it was just looking up comics for my own amusement. No, but anyway, you'll notice like these price stickers. They're actually in color, even though it might not look like that on camera, because that's a light purple sticker. Because that's an actual price sticker. Now, why would I have that on top of a photocopy? It's because I think I repriced it at that time. In the photocopies, like I'll show here in a minute, they were taking scans of while the stuff was still in a bag, like this is in a bag itself. Speaking of that, and see how the light is catching some of the folds and stuff. Well, that on some of the scans that happened too. So sometimes you'll see something that's not actually the wear or damage on the book itself. It's just you can see the light that reflected off the bag, since I didn't take it out of the bag when I scanned it. Anyway, like I said, it's Amazing Spider-Man #2. Oh, and the reason why I was explaining about the computers. So, I bought I think it was early 90s, like 92 or so, I bought my own portable photocopier, black and white photocopier. A little bit of history again for those too young to know or whatever, but back in the day, if you wanted to get a Xerox copy or a black and white photocopy of something, you generally only had a couple ways to do it. You could go to, like the zip printing or whatever, pit printing or whatever. I don't even remember the names of the places anymore. You go to those and get printed there, especially if you're doing a certain volume of them. Or if you were going to just get a few things, you might be able to go to a local library and put in a dime in the machine and get a black and white copy. And so anyway, I bought, like I said, bought my own photocopier for my art as well as for something like this. And a color photocopier was way out of my range, and so I didn't own a color photocopier. And it would still be some time before I owned a computer and then eventually a scanner for that computer. So what I'm getting at is that's why these are in black and white. And yes, it was harder to let people see what the book really looked like since it wasn't in the full color, but at the same time, it allowed for me to show them that I did have a copy and they could get an idea. In fact, the funny thing about doing it in black and white, like if you look close, you can actually see a lot of the wear that it shows up actually better on black and white. And for somebody like me who wants to be an honest dealer, while that doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing that you can see the wear, it at least shows, I want people to see so they won't think it's better shape than it is, because I don't want to con anybody. I want them to know what they're getting and pay the fair price and all that we can work out. So anyway, but look, back in those days, 150. Now you see a lot of wear on that book, but this book would be way more than 150 nowadays. And I know it's been over 25 years, but I mean I haven't looked this thing up, but it's probably the same copy could get around $1,000, I think, in this day and age. And then you'll see that with a lot of the books in here that. I didn't have Action Comics #1. That book, actually, and Detective 27, those real true gems have eluded me, even to this day, even though all my years of being a dealer, even though I have had Amazing Fantasy 15, which is not in here. I got that many years after this. But I just thought this was fun to share because I came across this folder, which has these books that I picked up back during the time. And like I said, some of them actually came originally from my collection that became some of the first high dollar books I sold in the shop. And I had sold some, like I said, at conventions and stuff before. There's Amazing Spider-Man #5 with Dr. Doom. Again, $130. And it's hard to say, and I'm going by memory too, but even with the wear here, we're still talking probably in the VG range. There's some of those scans lines I'm talking about, those little lines there. That's from the bag. That's not actually on the book. The book wasn't wrinkled or whatever in that area. That is the comic book bag that it was kept in, because I didn't take it out of the bag when I scanned it. And I guess I photocopied it. And I guess I didn't do that because I didn't want to take a chance of damaging the book, which might be smart, but also it left those stupid lines. And so that's not actually a defect that's on the book. But that, it was just interesting to see these again, because I was going through some stuff. I found this folder that I made to show people. And this was a particularly nice copy, really, of the first appearance of Scorpion, #20. I mean, there's a little bit of wear there and all that, but I remember this book, and it was really sharp looking. And it is a shame that I don't have them in full color so you can see, because a lot of them, the color really was sharp on a lot of them, too. There's Amazing Spider-Man 39 and 40. These are both issues that have to do with Norman Osborn the Green Goblin revealing himself as being Norman Osborn for the first time, and of course he exposes Peter Parker's identity as well. And again, $50 for this book. And even in this grade, I mean, that's what's amazing when I was going through these the other day is just how vastly different these prices would be. Here's another good example. It's #50, first appearance of Kingpin, a classic issue, classic story. This was $100 back then. And as I recall, the reds and oranges and all the cover really snapped. So even though, yes, as you can see with the black and white, you can still see even the wear there and chipping a little there and all that, it still was a sharp looking copy for a low grade copy. Avengers #2, first appearance of Phantom Stranger, and Iron Man still wearing his bulky armor, for instance. This was another really nice copy. Again, not near mint. None of these have been, as I showed you before, unfortunately, they were near mint, but there were some nice, solid copies, even when they're lower grade. Only 140 on that at the time, and another one. All these, I think it'd probably be obvious. All of these would be worth a lot more like nowadays. This was only a $50 copy. This was a particularly nice copy, if I remember correctly, even though it has a few spine ticks. It was another one that was actually a pretty sharp looking copy. And that's #16, where Captain America becomes the leader of the Avengers, and Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Hawkeye all join the team and become official members. Here's one from my friend Larry, Larry's Library here on YouTube, because Larry's a big Barry Windsor Smith fan, and this was I think the insides were drawn by Barry Smith. The cover definitely was. It's even signed, and this was during the era where he still got a Jack Kirby riff going, but you could see this. He's working on Conan at this time, so he's starting to develop his own individual style. But you still see that Kirby influence. And speaking of Kirby, one of the classic Kirby covers, and the first ongoing issue after Tales of Suspense became Captain America 100, his big premiere issue, which was in effect is number one in a sense of the new ongoing series. Then a classic cover there that's drawn by Jim Steranko. Here's a really nice one, and I paid $400 for this. Well, I charged $400. I didn't pay $400. Let me rephrase. Even though I bought it as a collector, this was one I did buy for my own collection, and then ended up selling later on for the shop. I still didn't pay $400 for it. I paid like $300 or something back when I got it. But this thing nowadays would be worth a few thousands, I think, because again, it's not high grade. There's you see a little tear, and that darker area was where a tape stain was on there, but overall it was a solid copy with the wear it had. And it's the first appearance of the Fantastic Car, first time the Fantastic Four have outfits. Actually, it's the first issue where Human Torch is drawn like we know him, instead of just a big human bonfire. He's actually got a look similar to the Golden Age version, only with a face. The Golden Age Human Torch was famously drawn without any real facial features. And the first appearance of the Baxter Building. This is a very key issue in the third issue of the Fantastic Four, where they really basically come together as the Fantastic Four as we know them now. And there's another classic issue, because it's Submariner teaming up with Doctor Doom for the first time. And then the first appearance of Puppet Master, and Alicia Masters is her first appearance in this issue, number 8. There's Jack and Stan appearing in a Marvel comic for the first time. These lines here, again, that's from the bag that this book was in. That was not anywhere from the cover. And it was actually a pretty nice copy, if I remember correctly. $150 is what I wanted for it at the time. Once again, worth a lot more nowadays. And you got a Submariner issue again, number 14. Then the first appearance of the Thinker, if I remember correctly. I think it is. It's been a while. Maybe it's... I'm getting rusty. I used to know this by heart. It's certainly one of the earliest ones, if it's not the first one. But I'm pretty sure it's this first one, if I remember correctly. First appearance of Molecule Man. I haven't forgotten that. That is Molecule Man's first appearance. Then, here we go. I have two in this book, 2 of the 3 big books of what's called the Galactus Trilogy. And I perhaps got what you consider the biggest books there. In fact, I think I had number 50 here at this point, but didn't bother to photocopy it, even though it was in bad shape. But these things, this is what told me that maybe these were before I had the shop, or they were before I had the shop. They had to be, because these 2 books were 2 of the 3. I had the complete trilogy, 48 for $9.50. They were the ones that put me on the path to making sure I kept going forward about getting a shop. I had these at a convention, so I photocopied these even before the shop, like I said, the show at conventions and stuff too. And if I didn't want to pull out the actual box or what have you, make sure I had a serious buyer. And the Fantastic Fours that I'm showing here, I sold all 3 to one guy, and that's when I decided, because that was pretty big books to be selling off even back then, that if I've sold all 3 of these in one lump sum, then I better be serious about this whole deal, about trying to get a comic shop. So it was pivotal in making sure I went forward with my plans to get a shop. But here's another thing, $200. Okay, again, being black and white and full stat, it's hard to say. You can tell, again, there is edge wear and all that, and stuff. But this book, it's definitely worth a lot more than $200, even in this grade in this day and time. It's worth a few $1,000, I think, in this grade, especially if you got CGC'd. But it's just amazing that how much some stuff has raised over the years. Doctor Doom's origin and his first appearance of Latveria, when we find out he's got ruling kingdom of Latveria. That was annual number 2 in 1964 of Fantastic Four. Then we got the Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos 13, which gives a Golden Age. It's not actually a Golden Age story; it's the Silver Age, but it tells back what happened in the 40s with when Captain America first met Nick Fury. Nick Fury wasn't actually a Golden Age character. It's kind of a retcon of a sorts, because he didn't exist in the 40s as a character. But since he was said to, his stories took place as Sergeant Fury in World War II, that's why Captain America, they're showing these, or doing a story where they tell an adventure between him and Captain America on that day. And here's Silver Surfer number 1. Another one, $60. The $60 for I charged back then for this copy. And another one that probably I don't know, I haven't looked it up for a while, but certainly hundreds of dollars, if not 1,000, even in this condition nowadays. I mean, it's ridiculously up there. And I like I said, some of these I don't look up. If I even though I continue to sell to this day, that's how I make my living. If I don't have a reason to look it up, I don't keep abreast of everything. So I'm not sure what exactly it was for, but I know it goes for hundreds of dollars, if not 1,000, even in that condition now. And then we got Tales of Suspense 59, which is the first time Captain America appears as a feature in the title. This is the book that would eventually become Captain America 100. There's Iron Man, who also was in that book and got his own number 1 once they split off. Here's the Hulk's first appearance in Tales to Astonish, where he fights Giant Man. And then it's like almost like a baptism of fire, if I remember correctly, because even though I don't have Tales of Suspense 58 in here, as I recall, Captain America fights Iron Man in 58, and then in 59 he gets his own feature. Whereas in Tales to Astonish in 59, Hulk fights Ant-Man, and then he gets his own feature in 60. So it's kind of funny, like they have to do trial by combat to earn their own feature in the book, I guess. Now we go to X-Men. X-Men number 2. And there's another one. Was $400 for this copy back then. It was a pretty solid copy. Again, it does have some wear and all, but it was another one that was actually pretty sharp. And another one that would go for quite a bit more nowadays in that condition. The Blob's second appearance in X-Men number 7. There's the first appearance of Stranger in X-Men number 11. Now, here's first appearance of Juggernaut in X-Men number 12. I actually have a copy at this moment, at the time of this recording, that I have on my eBay listings. Now, if you look at this video years from now, if it's still up on YouTube, it won't be probably there, but I just thought I'd note that that's one of the books in this thing I actually have at the moment. But not that copy. That copy is long sold off. Number 13, the second part of that story, guest starring the Human Torch. The first appearance of the Sentinels in number 14 of X-Men, and another one that was in pretty nice shape. There's some stain on there. Oh, yuck. Probably some food stain. Anyway, there's the X-Men number 26. Nothing particularly special, but it was a nice copy. Pretty nice copy, actually. This one, in fact, that's why I put it in this book, because it wasn't particularly a key issue, but it was a really nice copy that I had at that point. Here was the X-Men received their individual outfits and no longer wearing a team outfit. Then we go to, wait a minute, skip ahead here. X-Men number 94. This was, as I recall, a really nice copy. It was a little spine tick here and a little bit of edge wear there, but it was overall a beautiful copy. And I had $150 on this in 1996. This one is definitely one that would go for well over $1,000, even without being graded today. And it was a really nice, sharp-looking copy, which is, again, why I wish I did have actually color versions to show you. But Daredevil number 4 from Lev Gleason's company. This is the original Daredevil, not Marvel's, but yeah, these original Golden Age version of him. Then you got a Golden Age issue of Batman from a late Golden Age one from 1947, if I remember correctly. It's got 2 date stamps. One says 1950, and what I'm thinking is maybe back in those days, maybe they found it in the back room and restamped it again or something. I don't know why it's got a later date stamp, but it is 1947, if I remember correctly. Number 40, a Batman with the Joker cover. And then another Batman, but this is an early Silver Age one with the giant size comics code on it, with Batman flying around. And then we got another Detective Comics, 1949. It's kind of hard to see, but there's Batman Robin silhouette where they're coming over from the bat, responding to the bat signal. That was a cool bat signal cover. And then another late Golden Age, early Silver Age issue, because it's not quite yet the comic code era. So it's pre-1955, pre-code. And then an early code, a 1957 issue of Batman, or Detective with Batman. So there's some of these, like the Jigsaw ones, some old Batmans. Then you got Justice League of America number 7 with the Funhouse mirror. And another, I had some nice copies here. Number 8 of Justice League of America. Number 15 and number 16. And there's number 17. And that's that crease right there is actually on the bag. That wasn't on the book either. Because like I said, most of these are really solid looking copies. And they were being so really cheap back then. 18, they weren't cheap at the time. I mean, that was the going price, really. But, whew. And then number 19. So those were some Justice Leagues I had there. The Adventures of Flying number 1 from 1959 by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. This is from Archie Comics and predates Amazing Spider-Man. A lot of people like to draw the conclusion that they come up with the idea for Spider-Man based off of the ideals for the Fly and for this villain here. But to me, I don't think creating a character, even if they originally called it Spider-Man, and they just because he has Spider-Man abilities means that they create the Spider-Man, because they didn't. You know, a lot of people argue who was responsible for what. And I love Jack Kirby and Stanley both, but Joe Simon, what I meant to say though here. But Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, their version, even in the early stages, was not the Spider-Man we know. And so even if they did have a character named Spider-Man, it wasn't that Spider-Man. But the hero was Spider-Spry, so that was a moot point with this book. But that's, figures into that whole thing. Anyway, Spartacus. This is a beautiful copy. Another one that I really like how sharp the copy looked. There again is photos in the sleeve that's in, not in the actual book. And it's a photo cover with Kirk Douglas as the character Spartacus. But the insides are John Buscema, John Buscema art. And looked really cool. Now it was right before he started working for Marvel, so he hadn't yet had that injection of Kirby dynamic kind of dynamism. I can't even talk today, but it's still definitely John Buscema art, and you can look at it and recognize it if you know or familiar with his art enough. And it was cool that it's got that in there, and I thought that was for a photo cover. I thought that was a really nice photo cover because he's got the dramatic pose and everything. Then you got Maverick number 1. It's technically a 4-color book, 4-color 892, but it's considered the first issue of Maverick, which was the classic cowboy TV series starring James Garner. And they're a cool cover there. And that was all that I had in this book. And I just thought that was interesting that I came across that. Again, that I was going through my stuff. And it showed you what I did pre-computer era to show off some of the books without pulling out the actual box at that time, just so to give people an idea. And so I don't have the books anymore. I don't even have a color copy, but I still have the black and whites to kind of remind me of some of those early books there. And anyway, I'll go ahead and let you go for now, and I'll come back with some video about something sometime soon. So, yay! Talk to you later.